So this is assignment 14.4 and it's the review of my training programs and exercise session. So first we'll start with the training programs. So before the training programs I did questionnaires. So this included any barriers that the client might face with regards to the training. So for example, travel, so they can't get to a certain location, or family commitments. So if they have to, look after their kids one night a week, obviously they can't do that specific day. This is important information because it enables the client and also me as the trainer to figure out the best time to train. Also, as the trainer, I need to find out whether the client has an income that's stable enough to pay for, obviously, the sessions, because that has a big effect on it. So I also did a PAR-Q, which is just which allows me to adapt to any injuries that the client might have. So for example, with the first client, they stated that they had back issues and asthma, so this just made sure that I had to be careful with the amount of weight that I used for them in training, and obviously be careful as well if they were going to be doing any continuous training or sprints, obviously with the asthma. But there wasn't much continuous training as it was a weight training sort of program. The second client suffered from a knee injury and so had an operation on it, which meant the program couldn't contain really, at first at least, any high impact exercises sort of in the early stages. This ensured that recovery from the operation could happen as quickly and effectively as possible, starting with stuff like swimming, which is low impact, rather than going straight into sprints and running, which is obviously more high impact on the knee especially. Also, they have family commitments, of which the program had to be planned around, so certain days they couldn't actually do because of their commitments to the family. So targets are very important in a training program because they provide a form of motivation for the client, as this is kind of like what they're working towards, what they want to achieve by the end of the 6 weeks. So for my first client, their main target was to improve the size and the strength of their muscles. More specifically, making sure the targets are SMART, so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So making it more specific, they were aiming to achieve 45 kilograms when they were to repeat their 1 rep MAC test using a dynamometer, making the target measurable. Obviously, the test is a measure of that. For the second client, the reason behind the targets was obviously the same, making sure they were SMART, to ensure they weren't out of reach for the client, because if a target's out of reach, it's going to lead to a client becoming potentially demotivated, as they are going to have little faith that they could achieve so much in such a short amount of time. My other client was aiming to improve their cardiovascular endurance, so I made sure that all of the sessions targeted that in different ways, like running, rowing, swimming, etc., etc. So just targeting the specific goals that they want to achieve by the end. So before every session with both clients, there was a short warm-up which included stretches in order to prepare the muscles that were going to be used for the session. Stretching is especially essential. So for my first client, obviously it's especially essential when trying to build muscle, because it reduces the risk of injury and increases the pliability and elasticity of muscles, especially the ones that are going to be used in this session. Also, major joints of the body need to be prepared for exercise as well. So in certain sessions, such as those targeting the leg muscles, so this is for my first client, I incorporated a short jog or cycle, which was raising the pulse and getting the blood flowing around the body and to the specific leg muscles, supplying them with oxygen for respiration. In most of the sessions I used weights, obviously because it's weight training, which obviously will facilitate the gain of muscle size and strength, but the size of the weights started off fairly light in order to allow room for progressions and also to avoid any potential injury, obviously with their back problems. However, for some sessions I did leave out weights, purely to, prevent tedium really. If they're doing weights in every session, they're going to get bored. But also because I selected certain exercises that would only use the body weight of the client. For example, press-ups, pull-ups. I did this because, as I said, prevents tedium, which is a principle of training. You don't want the client to get bored, because obviously they're not going to be satisfied and they might not put in as much effort. For my second client, I started off with just your regular continuous training, mainly swimming at the beginning, as I've stated, because of the low impact nature of it. Started off fairly, not too long, about 20 minutes, continuous, but then certain sessions, as the weeks progress, certain sessions would be interval, so doing some sprints as well as just going for a 20-25 minute jog. This because it's going to prevent tedium as well, as I've already said with the other client, and also because continuous training and working on your cardiovascular endurance, stuff like running, it does tend to lead to muscle loss as well, because you're burning all of that fat, you will lose muscle. So it's important to incorporate some sort of exercise that's gonna, build up muscle, so you're kind of evening it out. So sprints, some other stuff, like you could do squats here and there. That could be an improvement for me. Maybe incorporate some more sort of power and muscle gain exercises into the second client's program, just to make sure that it's really evened out with the amount of continuous training that they were doing, because they don't really want to be losing weight, they just wanted to improve their fitness. So after every session with both clients, there was a cool down, which aims to return the body to its normal state as it was prior to exercise. This happens by returning the muscles to their original length, ensuring capillaries are dilated so that oxygen can get to the muscles with ease, and it also aids the removal of waste products such as carbon dioxide, which comes from respiration, and lactic acid, which mainly comes from short explosive exercise like that of client 1, which will prevent DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle soreness, which you get about 48 hours after exercise. So at the end of the 6 weeks, I did a review of each client. So it's just about the targets and whether they had been met or not met, depending on obviously the outcome of their retesting. It's important to redo the tests at the end of the 6-week program so that the client can kind of identify how far they've come from the beginning of the program. Therefore what they've achieved and their current physical state is, like set in stone, so they know exactly what's sort of progressed, really. It's also important, I did tests after about 3 weeks, so halfway through the program. This is because it will allow them to compare the results to those that were collected before, and obviously when you finish you can compare throughout, so the beginning 3 weeks and 6 weeks. So this, it also provides a source of motivation, to keep working and to keep trying to achieve your targets. Because if you're left in the dark for 6 weeks and don't really know where you're at and what you're doing, you're going to kind of, you'd want to know how you're getting on. I would say that one of my weaknesses when creating the program was that I should have stated specific objectives that I wanted the client to achieve by the end of the week, or even at the end of each session. This could have included things like, bringing the weights up by 5 kilograms, or being able to complete 2 more reps than that of the number at the beginning of the session. This would have given the client something even more specific and short-term to work towards, as well as knowing that it was also working towards their long-term goal of what they wanted to achieve by the end of the program. My main strengths from both training programs was that I included a variety of exercises throughout the programs, and especially during the week, I'd vary the sessions. So for example, I wouldn't have, so for client 1, I wouldn't have a session on legs and then do the same for the next session. I wouldn't do a solid week on legs and then a solid week on arms. 1, that'd get boring, and 2, it absolutely kill the muscles, so they wouldn't be able to work maximally for every session of the week. And obviously then for client 2, I wouldn't do, I will swim every day this week, run every day this week, vary it, so swim this day, maybe do running that day, or maybe interval sprints the next day. Just depended on the client and what they wanted. So another one of the strengths, I think, from the training program was my provision of alternative exercises. So for example, with my first client, the alternative was to use lighter weights or to just use an alternate exercise that works the same muscles but only uses their body weight. This was in case they were struggling with the amount of weight due to their back problems, because obviously wouldn't want to cause any injuries. And for my second client, the alternatives to exercises such as running, which, as I've stated, very high impact, were activities such as swimming, potentially rowing, which are more, low impact on their knee joint where the operation was, just again to prevent any injury or any uncomfortableness. So now onto the exercise session. So for my exercise session, I obviously started with a warm-up because it's a main component of a session. So I did tag with bibs, so it's just a generic game of tag. Everyone but two people have bibs, and then the people that don't have bibs have to get the bibs out of the from the other people. So I chose this activity because it's more fun than just a simple warm-up or just a generic game of tag. Participants are going to start therefore enjoying themselves and feel more comfortable with each other, having a bit of a laugh and having some fun. Then after I got the group to do some dynamic stretches, so like lunges and side steps, and some static stretches like arm swings. For the static stretches, I asked different members of the group to give everybody else a stretch to do, which was allowing me to start to build a rapport with the participants, getting them involved in the session. I thought that was a real strength of my session, just sort of making them feel more comfortable and more at ease during it. Obviously the stretches were really important because, it prepares you for the session. Don't want anyone getting injured, because that could be obviously a great risk if anyone gets injured. Because obviously you want all the muscles to be prepared for exercise, want blood to be flowing, and obviously with the game of tag you want the pulse to be raised so everyone's ready. So for the main session I did circuit training to work on the participants' muscular endurance. However, I also slightly targeted their cardiovascular endurance by making their partner run between two cones for the time that the participant was doing the exercise. So one was doing the exercise for a minute, and the other person was doing shuttle runs for that time. So I chose to do circuit training because there are so many simple exercises that you can use, and it's just very easy because you can only use participant's body weight. You can choose from using the body weight, or you could use weights as well, but it's it prevents boredom, because if there's so many different exercises to do, if you're doing constant press-ups for 15 minutes, it's going to get boring. Whereas if you're doing you do press-ups here for a minute, you do squats here for a minute, you do skipping here for a minute, those are the sorts of exercises that I was doing. So you're targeting different muscles each time. So squats, you're going to be targeting the legs, press-ups, arm and core, sit-ups, obviously targeting core, box jumps, targeting legs. So it's a variety of things. It's not just targeting one muscle group, really.